Good morning and afternoon. It's Wednesday, 9 a.m. Pacific. Welcome all. I'm Kane, and I'm joined with David, better known as the Workday Sharing Guy. Also joining us is Denise, Logan, and special guests. Welcome to the Sharing Show.
Thank you, Kane. Can you please tell me a little bit more about Zoom?
Absolutely. So we are using Zoom as always, and the chat is open. We are hoping that you can go through and select all attendees and panelists when you are sharing any comments, ideas, suggestions. On the screen there, you'll see that on the top right-hand corner, you can select all panelists and attendees. So if you go ahead and make that change now, looks like some of you are making that change. Looks like some of you haven't done it yet. And finally, just a reminder that our season finale is in 2 weeks' time on the 18th of December. So now we're ready to get started with the first part of the show. So I'll take it over to you guys to take it from here.
Thanks, Kane. We're going to go ahead and start with our Kahoot this morning. So if you will log into a browser and go to kahoot.it, you will be able to join us.
Denise, can we use a browser on the phone?
You can use a browser on any device, but remember it's kahoot.it. All right, our pin this morning is 7205061.
$720, 50, 61.
How many times have you made the podium on the quiz Kahoot? 0, but maybe today. 1 or 2 times. 3 or more. Wait, what's the podium? Oh, maybe today for a lot of us. We'll see. What level are you with calculated fields? I'm a beginner, intermediate, advanced. I don't really know or need to know calc fields. Intermediate. What is your level of interest for calculated fields? 0 interest in the topic. I know enough, not seeking any help. I need some demystifying, but that's all. I'm ready to master or get closer to mastery. A lot of people looking to master calc fields. Which of these would you like to see more of in season 2? Reporting in calc fields, integrations in general, Workday Cloud Platform, some other technical topic that I'm going to put in the chat right now. A lot of people looking for reporting in calc fields. I'll be curious to see what goes in the chat for other technical topics. And which of these would you like to see more of in season 2? More recruiting, learning, financials, or some other functional topic, which I'm also going to put in the chat. A lot of people looking for recruiting. I like it. And more interesting in the chat. All right, here's our quiz. When is the season finale? Today, this is it. Tomorrow, a week from today, or 2 weeks from today on December the 18th. Most of you know it's coming up 2 weeks from today. All right, and what do we have next on the agenda?
Up next, we have David, the Workday Sharing Guy.
Thank you, Denise. This is my disclaimer handshake agreement I have with my previous manager when I left Workday about 6 years ago. I believe he's still there, VP of Education. I am not a Workday employee. I was a Workday employee starting back in 2007. This sharing show is not sponsored by Workday. It doesn't represent Workday. It's customers sharing with each other. It's all part of a sharing movement, customer sharing movement. This is also not training. This is knowledge sharing. For training, I highly recommend the Workday training. Now, also, I want to add that I'm on a mission to help as many Workday customers as possible. We have this, the sharing show. We have share-a-thons. We have lots of more sharing opportunities coming up in 2020.
Thanks, David. What do we have up next on the agenda?
Up next, we have financials year-end close with our friend Rick from Texas. Oh,
Wait,
go with
we will
Indy
go.
from Texas first.
Indy from Texas.
Let's go with
Yep.
Indy.
Let's go with Indy.
Yep. So thank you for having me on the show. I'm very excited and I wanted to bring this new topic and share with you guys regarding Workday Financials year-end close. So a couple of things. The close process could be different from customers to customer, as we know in the financial side. But on this topic, we wanted to highlight three main areas that you want to make sure that those are checked off from your list in order to close the year for financials. The first one is, most of you already know, roll forward year-end balances. So what that process does is it takes the balances from the previous year to the beginning balance of the new year for the balance sheet accounts, and also for the income statement. The roll forward process will move the current year retained earnings to the next year in the appropriate ledger account. And in order for us to do that, there are some to-do items. We have to make sure those are completed before we run the task. So those items are: security needs to be in place. Make sure the security domain for the close year-end process is there, and you have the particular person who's running that task is able to access it. And the ledger year needs to exist and close the period prior to running the final roll forward. That is important. And the retained earning account posting rule set needs to be configured to make sure that if you have a different account the customers would like to use for the prior year retained earning, those needs to be set up into the account posting rule set. And also define work tax to be included in the retained earning, the tenant setup in financials if you do decide to do that. And the second piece is the new functionality, which is related to the roll forward of the translated balances. And the roll forward of the translated balances task will include all translated balances regardless of the ledger balances. Historically, that functionality wasn't there, but this will allow you to view translated beginning balances for all journal lines, including those journals that net to zero in ledger currency, providing additional transparency and control over the process. This is applicable to the customers who have multi-currency and would like to roll forward the balances. All right, and moving on to our third option for the year-end close, which is maintenance of the work tag types of beginning balances. And this one in particular, I really like the new task. This would allow us to roll forward the balances into the new year where we may want to consolidate or summarize the work tags because you may not want the cost center to be broken out or any other particular work tag. And you have the option to do that now. But in order for us to do this, there's some additional notes. If you define more than one rule for the same company and ledger account, Workday applies the first rule and disregard the rest. And to specify a ledger account with the year-end closing rules, use the target ledger accounts. And the ledger account summaries, Workday uses the version that are active when you run the roll forward. Last not but least, leave the inactive checkbox clear to activate your configuration rules. If you select the inactive box, then the Workday disregard the rule. So those are the key topics at the high level. You want to make sure those are in place for the financial year-end close.
All right, indeed. Thank you. There were some votes for financials for season 2. If people have questions, they could use the chat. But are you also available after the show for the open mic if people have questions for you?
I may have a few minutes. I should be able to answer questions related to these topics. Sure.
Okay, I think I see already a question coming in, so the chat is open.
That's great. Thank you so much, Indy, for sharing. We enjoy having you here. And what do we have up next on the agenda?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Up next, we're going to have year-end recruiting with David.
Well, I think I'll start this, and then Logan, maybe I'll pass it back to you. I want to start by sharing that our friend Mike, who was in episode 1, the very first airing of the sharing show, with a fantastic boomerang. I'll show a picture of it here. It was an issue he was having with recruiting, where people have on their resumes all capitalized names, and they found their way into Workday, got hired, and he fixes it by pulling those names out, doing the logic in the middle of the boomerang, and then pushing it back in. So I've highlighted here an example. So Mike's a special boomerang person for us, being on the first show, and then having him come here at the very, it's not the final show, but it's the final show before the season finale. So Mike would do a complete boomerang, but he's not able to make it today. He's at Workday Rug in Philly. So let's go to his share.
Thanks,
Logan,
David.
what are you looking at? Yeah.
So Mike has a blog on recruiting. And in this particular blog, he's talking about year-end planning for recruiting. And what he likes to do is complete a retrospective where you're looking at 3 key questions. Basically what worked well, what didn't work well, and what do we want to do differently next time. And one of the things that I loved about reading Mike's blog is where he says, personally, I love answering number 3 with 3 items. What should I stop doing? What should I start doing? And what should I continue doing? It just keeps it really simple when you're doing a retrospective, particularly related to recruiting and planning for next year. And so a couple of the key items that he highlights in the blog, and I encourage you to go check out his blog. It's super informational. Job distribution and source attribution. He has employer brand, job alerts and EVP, recruiter ease of use and knowledge, and goals and aspirations for next year. So if you check out the chat, there'll be a link to his blog, and I would encourage you all to go and take a look if you're related to recruiting and curious about some year-end planning for recruiting, because we don't usually think about year-end planning with recruiting, but it's really helpful. So thanks, Mike, and we hope to see you back after your rug.
Yeah, so in 2 weeks, hopefully Mike will be back for the season finale. And this wraps up our year-end sharing. We had a couple of weeks ago in previous airing, Kelly did year-end for benefits, and Indy here on financials, and Mike via Logan year-end on recruiting. I believe each one of them has a blog, actually. So we will be putting links to these blogs on the LinkedIn group, which you'll see a picture of here pretty soon.
Thanks, David. And what do we have up next on the agenda?
Up next, we're going to revisit our Roman numeral challenge. We have a guest who solved that. We have Rick from Texas.
All right, Rick, before you go, I want to lead up to your solution, and then maybe you'll tell the story. So this is the slide from 2 weeks ago, and on the bottom you see there's a challenge. We're going to take someone's hire date, for example, a year 2019, and I made it easier by saying you could just go with the 19 if you want. So I wanted to help people who I've seen in the calculated field workshops that we've been doing for the past 3 months. People are a little hesitant to even get started because they're thinking, well, what's the best solution? Now, this is going to be a quite humbling sharing show for me, because what I did when I showed this is I wanted to encourage people, go ahead and use Google, use online search if you'd like. And I found this one, the way to turn a number into a Roman numeral, you subtract the highest number. So subtract 90 if you can, If you can't, subtract 50, 40, 10, and you add those Roman numerals, and then you subtract. Of course, this comes in a loop typically in code. And I found out the hard way, it's not easy to loop, or actually you can't loop with calc fields. And the reason why this is humbling is because when the third item here says, is your solution the best solution? And I had said, that doesn't really matter. Well, let's see if it does matter or not, right? So I'm going to go ahead and use that Google search. And what I did is I took this same challenge, I put it on community, which you see on the left. And then on the right, Denise is putting into the chat the link to join the Sharing Show group, which we're going to be using a lot more in season 2. So we will be putting solutions up there. Not that anyone needs to order t-shirts with Roman numerals for people for the year of their hire date, but if you ever want to, we've got a couple of solutions for you. Now, here's what I did at the end when I finally got this monster done. I put it into a report and I right click or I click the 3 dots and I want to view the hierarchy. And in the hierarchy, I'm just going to show you a picture of how incredibly involved it was. Well, the hierarchy doesn't even show up. I don't know why. I've never seen that happen before with a calc field. So I went ahead and let it go to Excel. Not ideal, but let's take a look. This is, if it's the first time you're seeing it, ever, a calc field hierarchy in Excel. Let's scroll down, and on line 347, I guess you could look and see that we're checking to see if a calc field is greater than or equal to the value 50. And so I would decide to scroll down to the bottom and hold on here just a second. 94,000 rows. No wonder it was spinning. So this is either a bug inside of Workday or this is working as designed. And I'm the one who has a bug because somehow my solution created this huge Excel file. And this is what it should look like, right? So instead of the full solution, I just picked the very first part. So the very first character, and L if it's over 50, and actually an XC if it's 90. So anyone with a higher date than the 1990s. So this is what the hierarchy would look like. I'm showing just the bottom piece of it, and I'm going to highlight here one way of getting just 2 characters off of the year, format with YY as a format mask. Well, the problem is that gives you text. So you have to convert it to a number. So now I've got a number and I'm working my way through. Given a number, we did have quite the hint in the last airing of the Sharing Show. There's this thing called lookup range band, which not everybody has touched, but it allows you to grab, let's say, any particular number and return a value, I, 3 I's, IV, without having to create text constants. So that was something I had asked. It seemed like a pretty convenient way to do things. Problem is it returns a single instance. So we now have to convert that single instance to text, at least the way I was doing this. So I used a substring text to convert a single instance to text. So now, if the value was under 10, I use that approach. On the left, you see all these red squares. This is from the top down. First check to see if it's over 90, then over 50, then over 40, then over 10. Those are all needing true falses. I've got all these true falses, and with each one of these true falses, I did create text constants because I didn't know how to do the lookup range band for that. Oh my gosh, so this took a while. So now I'm, if somebody in 1980, I took out 50, subtracted 50 from the value. I'm barely taking my next byte. So now that I know what it is and what I need to subtract, I'm finally ready to get the second character. So if someone that's higher than 1988, I subtract 50. Now I have 38, but there's no loop. So now I have to write a whole new set of calc fields. Let's just say I got really good at the copy of calc fields and at having lots of tabs open on my computer. Now I've taken so many bytes and I'm still working on this thing. I've got the first, second, third, and fourth characters. Sometimes if they're born right in 2000, it would be empty. But I do have to handle 88 that would go up into 5 characters. At the very end, I know for sure it's under 10. So I want to get that in a hierarchy, and I can't get the hierarchy. So here's a picture of it once again. The values 0 through 9 is all I needed. 10 would never be caught. That's it? Pretty darn easy, huh? Well, while I was doing that, the third character over, so it would be, you know, L for 50, then 3 X's. The third one would be the second X. Anyway, this actually showed up in the class hierarchy, so I expanded almost everything just in case anyone wants to go back through the YouTube and pause this instead of joining the LinkedIn group, and you could do this on your own. Maybe you would win some sort of award somewhere, but this is the full thing. It really took me quite a while. So I think it's working as designed. It actually takes 94,000 lines to describe in Excel what I did in about an hour yesterday. So that's the first of 2 solutions.
Thanks, David. That was quite a solution. Who's next?
So next, let's see Rick's solution to the same problem.
Okay, so I kind of approached this a little bit differently than David. The first thing I did was I kind of sat down with pen and paper to refresh my memory with Roman numerals and how they worked. And what I determined was I could kind of break it down into 3 different pieces. The first 2 digits of the higher year being the century, which is going to be 19 or 20. I'm assuming nobody's hired in the 1800s or 2100s just yet. Then the third digit is the decade, so you'll have teens, 20s, 30s, 40s, etc. And then the fourth digit will be a single year. So what I determined is I can concatenate or break out each one of those, convert each one of those to a Roman numeral, then put them back together to get this. So step 1 here is doing the century. So the first thing you need to do is extract your century. Then you'll need to do an evaluate expression. And I just, like I said, I did 19 and 20 to determine the century. And I had the 2 text calc fields there to set those 2. So that was getting the century, which was fairly easy, just using the evaluate expression and a true false. To convert the third digit, the decade, is very similar to how I did the fourth digit, the year. So first thing you have to do is get that value. So extracting that with the substring. Then I had to convert it to a number. So I can use it in the lookup range band, much like David did. That was a new one to me. I had never used that before. And the first thing that I kind of did that screwed me up was I tried to do from like 0 to 0, 1 to 1, and it didn't work. So then I realized that I could set decimal points. So I did much like David did and said, between 1 and 1.9, 2 and 2.9 to convert it to the appropriate Roman numeral. And so in this case, it was the decade. So teens, 20, 30, 40, etc. Was what my range band converted it to. Then on step 3, converting the last fourth digit, the individual year, the same as step 2. So using the lookup range band and 1 to 1.9, 2 to 2.9 to convert those over. Then in step 4, I just concatenated the results of 1, 2, and 3 together into a field to get the Roman numeral value for that higher year.
All right, Rick, in case people haven't memorized all that, maybe show a few pictures.
Sure. So this first one here, we're just doing the format date to get the higher year. So just extracting out the year. And go to the next one. Here we have the calc field to determine the true false. So on the century, if it's 19 or 20. Yeah, so the evaluation here, I just used that true false value to say if it's 19, set it to the 19 Roman numeral value. And then else, I just set it to the default value of 20.
Yeah, and the text constant over there on the right shows it.
Then to pull in that third digit, the decade, I had to extract that out with the substring and then convert it to a number. So that's what this is showing here. Then for converting the decade, the third digit, and the year, the fourth digit, to the Roman numerals, again, I used the lookup range band, just like David did. And here you can kind of see the 0 to 0, 1 to 1.9, 2 to 2.9, etc., and then what those values are for each one.
Yeah, well, zoom in so people could see the difference, right? On the left is the thing you did on the left is the thing that I didn't think of.
So how many calc fields did you end up with, David,
Oh,
total? Do you
geez.
know?
Well, funny you should ask, Rick. So this is the humbling part, right? What is your approach? Well, actually, just doing a quick online search, you should know that you won't find very many pages. It says, and by the way, if you're doing Workday calculated fields, don't try to do a loop. You should call this guy Rick, right? So is your solution the best solution? Well, turns out, Rick, I timed yours and mine. I did both so I could time it. Yours is faster by hardly any, but yours was 13 calc fields. I think mine was over 30. I kind of lost track I tried to make it simpler. So complexity, well, we'll let the audience decide which one was easier to follow. I know where I vote. Not completely moving to Texas, but I've got you on speed dial, Rick. So that picture is showing a whole bunch of calc fields, right? Because remember, I didn't do it how you did it. I had to do L, X, 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 and new set of calc fields with each one. So here's a surprise for you, Rick. You won. Out of all the people who submitted anything in the world, you had the fastest, or I was going to say the best, the simplest. So you are the first winner of a pizza party. You could connect with Denise afterwards, and she'll explain to you how it works, or maybe I'll do another trip to Dallas.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll see you soon.
Okay.
Thanks so much, Rick. That was a great share and a very elegant solution. What do we have up next on the agenda?
Up next, we have our Movember wrap-up.
All right, this will be pretty quick because we're now in December. And if you look on the right, we did make it. We crashed through 999 miles for a team. You see right above it in gray, we had over 1,300. We didn't get 100 members, but we did get more than half of that. We did have more women than men. So 2 years in a row now, we are the largest Movember team that has more women than men in it. We got more than halfway through to our fundraising, which wasn't really our focus, but it was nice to be once again in the top 10 out of 62 Workday teams. My personal moves, I was doing just fine. And the very last day, a flight was delayed. I got in after midnight and I was short by 150 steps. Now I have to wait another 11 months.
Well, you could get moving in those 11 months.
I'm walking as we're talking right now.
And how's the Workday stock holding up today?
Well, I just took a quick look this morning, and once again, none of the analysts asked Anil to explain the sharing movement. So nobody's really caught on to this customer sharing movement. So for now, I guess the analysts didn't like one of the things that was said during the yesterday's earnings release. So we're almost back down to where we were during the rising days. So as a reminder, if your face or icon with your first name shows up on the left, you get to pick 5 trading days in which Workday crosses over $200 and a penny. Now, I have an Apple Watch for you. At one point, we might have to change things before the Apple Watch Series 6 comes out. But let's see how Workday recovers from this.
That's great. Thanks, David. At this point, we'd like to close up our show. We'd like to thank Humanity. Humanity is a Workday approved partner in dynamic employee scheduling, and we appreciate their sponsorship. And they're also, you might remember, sponsoring one of our pizza parties. And we would also like to thank Kane and Dovetail for co-sponsoring the sharing show and another pizza party for our winners. And Dovetail is a Workday certified select partner, providing HR service delivery software that reduces the number of questions into HR by 50%. We would all love that. Dovetail provides employee portal, HR case management, and HR knowledge management. And they recently released a new UI that the Dovetail Pug is pawing. So please go and check it out at dovetailsoftware.com. Thank you, Kane. Thank you, Dovetail. Now, I think we are just about ready to go into our post show, so we can go quickly through some potential Kahoot questions over the last 20 episodes.
Yeah, this is for people, right? Logan, this is for people to realize that they're all on the YouTube channel and everything's fair game, including today, Indy's share on year-end close for financials, and also from Mike's recruiting year-end planning ideas, right? So all that is fair game for the final Kahoots in the season final. I'm just going to take some pictures here and show you that we had several asks during this season as we're wrapping up the season. And actually, we had an ask that had a lot of answers come in on the chat. So you see here even chat answers. That's all fair game for the Kahoot in 2 weeks. During the season one, we had our first Boomerang Share-a-thon overlapping. And so we've had quite a theme of boomerangs. We've had shares such as recruiting offer letters, several challenges, reporting calc fields, business objects. Focus just on reporting and calc fields. This is based on your votes as to what you want to see. We've had a special guest explain to us what mouse gymnastics are. We've gone into searching tips and IDs. We've looked at some Workday hacks that are on community. Lots of photo fun. The I Love Workday photo contest. And I still am looking, but I will find you and I will teach you Workday. Great pictures that Denise took of Imagine Dragons at Rising the year prior. We went into culture. We took a look at Workday's focus on destigmatizing mental health conditions in the workplace. Some fantastic leadership at Workday. We covered this all in season one. We even did Count the Logans in the Picture contest. We looked at when did Workday get started. And if you look closely, there's a Count the Logans in this one too. And we had a fantastic quote come in that we shared. And once again, there's a Find the Logans. All hints for you for the season finale.
Thanks, David. Go ahead, Denise, with our quiz time.
Thanks, everyone. We're going to do a short ending quiz Kahoot today. And remember, these questions could also be on the final Kahoot next airing. Okay, you may have to refresh your browser to enter the new PIN, but the PIN for our quiz Kahoot is 4874033. We just have 3 questions on this one.
I'm going to verbalize this as 487, 40, 33. Denise, you said only 3 questions, right?
I believe so.
All right.
Wrong answer to these questions. How many snowflakes surrounded Logan in our pictures today? 22, 19, 17, or 15? Nice job. Good guesses, guys. Rick G, you're in the lead. Okay, here's our second question. How many calc fields did our friend Rick create in his solution? 10, 13, 15, or 17? That's right. David was over 30 and Rick got it down to 13.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Oh, John took the lead in that one. Okay, here's our... Okay. Which is not an item Mike considers for the next time? Is he not considering stopping? Is he not considering starting, continuing, or pausing? That's right. You'll have to go read his blog to see, to catch up on that if you missed it in the show. It looks like Priscilla is at the top of our podium today.
Nice job, Priscilla. and everyone who made the podium. Kane, we're ready to wrap up.
Excellent. Thank you, David. Thank you, Denise. And thank you, Logan. And special thank you to our guests for speaking and sharing on the show today. As always, we will publish the recording to YouTube, and you will find all the previous recordings on our YouTube channel. You'll see it on the screen right now. And reminder, the season finale is in 2 weeks' time on the 18th of December. Okay, we're going to end the show out, and we're going to come back to our post open mic session. So all that's left to say is everybody have a great work day.